Welcome to the Amazon's podcast. I'm Glenn Young, owner of Amazon's Fitness Magazine. Celebrate the female physique. Subscribe to AmazonsFitMag.com. The podcast is brought to you by Maximus Posing Suits. Let your inner warrior shine. Custom-made competition suits for victory on every stage. MaximusPosingSuits.com. And GPS photography and video. Why photography and video? Because with photos worth 1,000 words, videos worth 1,000,000. GPSphotoandvideo.com. Second guest of the day, just off the New York Pro, Gina Cavaliero, IFBB Women's Bodybuilder Pro. If you didn't know, coach, and this was your first show of the season. How are you feeling, Gina?
Good. It was a great first show. Excited because I'm doing another one, and I know I can bring even a better package than what I just brought. It was a really good, warm up and sorry.
That's all right. I know. Understand.
A good warm up, and but overall, just really pleased with the package I brought. It's
Right.
It's nearly 3 years since I last stepped on stage, so it was it hasn't been the easiest getting here. So it was just a success all the way around.
But all in time, you just keep building up. Obviously, going to look better at the next show, and that next show is
Toronto Super Show.
Toronto Super Show in roughly 2 weeks, right?
Yep, 2 weeks from tomorrow, Sunday.
All right, talk to me about your coach's feedback, which Hella Trevino coaches you. So what did Coach say?
Coach was happy. She was really pleased with the package we brought. She agrees there's things we can do different and better for the next show. Right. And so she's just as excited as I am because we know that we're going to bring something even more special next time. And, but she was happy. She was definitely pleased with how the prep's gone overall, despite the hiccups we've had. The end product it's good, and my health has been intact, so we can't ask for anything better.
That's the main thing, and something we talked about when you're flying from overseas or even across country to a show. Water retention can be an issue, and then you don't know what's going to happen from traffic to flight being delayed. But you got in. But what were some of the challenges that you had to deal with during this prep and during this coming to the show?
Yeah, well, the prep in general, just because I have hypertension, so I have what's called secondary hypertension. So it's not like necessarily resulting from a heart condition, but it results from a thyroid condition. So my thyroid just kind of got hammered several years ago, and never recovered from what we did. So it's basically either made me hypothyroid or hyper. So I vacillated back and forth. Just my thyroid just was all over the place. So as a result of that, it can create hypertension. So, it's not one of those things like no matter how well I eat or how much I exercise that I could ever make this remedy this situation. It's going to be medicated the rest of my life. So, that being said, there's lots of things that you can't do when you have hypertension as far as like stimulants, right? Caffeine even, so it's mostly decaf coffee for me in the morning. Once in a while, I'll have a regular one, but the difference is past preps, I was on, something we all frequently use, clenbuterol, the stimulant, which I can't use. There's also yohimbine HCl, which I've used in the past. So I have these two stimulants, plus I would drink a ton of caffeine. And, this prep, I kept saying to Helen, I'm like, why am I so tired? I'm like, I don't remember it being so bad. And, we finally figured out, the leaner you get, the crappier you feel. If you don't feel bad the last few weeks of prep, you're probably not doing it right. You're probably not ready.
Right.
But not having that caffeine and that stimulant to fall back on for my energy sources, when the carbs are gone, and the tank's empty, there's nothing more to dip into. Right. It's made it tough. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. No prep's easy.
No.
I think it made it more difficult. Um, but I also learned that it can be done without those things. You
Right.
know, more time, more dieting, not necessarily more cardio, but more training, um,
Right.
just to burn calories. But so we worked with that. This my body when it responds to stress, which can be either training stress, it can be cardio stress, it can be lack of food or carb stress,
Mm-hmm.
and my body's response to that is hold water. It
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't like something. Okay, let's hold water. That's just its answer for everything. So that has
Right.
been a problem throughout the prep, and it was a problem getting off the plane. So we knew that it would potentially be an issue, and we had more difficulty getting the water off the flight than we anticipated.
Right. Well, you were on stage. You saw it. Give me some tidbits. What y'all talk about backstage when you got on stage? There's Ashley. There's Lavanya Burrows. You were there. Tell me something that the fans don't know, that didn't see, that you saw and was like impressed you.
Uh, wow, I don't know. That's a tough question. Um,
I know you guys don't like to talk about insider information, but take me backstage to the stage. You got a viewpoint that nobody else can see other than the judges, and the expediters.
right. It's very chill backstage for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're everybody's about business. I would say.
Yeah.
You're talking, you're smiling, you're having a good time, but you're also really focused. You
Right.
need to get glued, you need to get oiled, you need to pump up, you need to get the right, foods, things, liquids into you, um, to optimize that peak and that look on stage. It's right down to literally the last minute before you step on stage that you're still managing and manipulating things. So I think everybody's just super focused, and I think the mood kind of changes from prejudge to pre-final. Whereas pre-final,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's kind of a little more laid back. I would say, you're probably when you're standing in line, there's the line because basically they line you up before you go out on stage.
Right.
Definitely a different feel when you're standing in line for finals, and you're going out to do your routine, you're about to have some fun, and when you're going out to battle it out in prejudging.
One thing that's been significant, and everybody saw, was the prize money went up, and that's always good. It's one of the biggest shows of the year because it's the New
Yep.
York Pro, very prestigious, well run with Steve Weinberger and everything.
Yep.
Um, from looking what I saw, I loved it. Looked like lighting was great, tanning was on, so no issues there. Um, Overall, well run. The thing about it now is we got to keep eking that prize money up, which is great. And you saw the Texas Pro, but that's for women's physique. So hopefully, Sarah Villegas down the road will add women's bodybuilding, which is always great, and loving it. So I think we're trending in the right direction. It's not so much as a negative from the shock of being, no more, no point system. Now you win, that you win and you're in. It's definitely made it more competitive. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think so. There's there's only so many shows. There's only so many spaces to get to, the Olympia. So I think girls know they need to bring their A game.
Mm-hmm.
There's you might have a couple shots if you do a couple shows back to back,
Right.
but we all know that the deeper we get into the season, and as there's fewer and fewer in shows, there's more and more athletes in them. And
Right.
sometimes we're seeing most of your Olympians that have to qualify are hitting those shows because the early
Right.
shows they're not having much of an off season if they're coming off an Olympia that's October, November, and then
Yes.
jumping into the show beginning of the year. So that's a lot of the reason I think we don't see the bigger numbers in the early shows is it's just not conducive time wise for
Right.
those that have a longer season, right? And so all those girls we're going to see come for Chicago, Tampa, Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. And the bigger show, then one of the biggest ones toward the end, which will be one of the last shots, is the Tampa.
Yes.
And you got the Chicago and Atlanta Pro right there in July.
Yep.
The one out in California, and then Lena Popa's show on
Yeah,
September.
and
And
the one in California is Tamer. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
new show, right?
right. Yep, that's a new one. Wings of Strength. Jake Woods putting that one on, I believe. And
Okay.
then you got, of course, the Toronto Super Show.
Yeah.
So do you go early? Do you go late? It's all in a strategy, but you can go too late as well because if you qualify late, then it seems that it's really going to be hard, and that you get the thing where my body started didn't respond. My body stopped responding because you qualified so late, and so when you get to the Olympia, you got nothing else left in the tank. So
Yeah, I mean, there's different scenarios that occur with that. It's sometimes it's the athlete that's had the really long season who did the early shows and still
mhm,
going into the later mid-season shows and then end up dieting all year that has the metabolism you know
right,
crash and when things just aren't working anymore, and it's the ones that are later in the season. So it's just something that's a gamble you're going to take, and you
right,
never know if it's going to be you that's going to have the issue or not, because every prep's different, your health changes, your body changes. I mean, I know of some athletes who tend to be what I would say more, their physiological responses are more consistent than what I would say mine is. Even Hella
right.
says, she's like, I know X, Y, and Z, and this should produce X, Y, and Z, and with you, I
Mhm,
get Q, R, M. It's just, if anything's gonna not respond the way you would think it would respond, it would be me, my body. It's just
mhm,
keeps us on our toes.
yeah. Well, you got the ultimate teammate, coach and trainer
Definitely.
as well. So I mean, can't get any better than that. Take me into the world of kinesiology. There's basically three body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. Who has the bigger advantage as far as winning the show? What body type? I mean, because there's different things that are entailed there. And instead of people just saying tall, short, those are the scientific terms. So
Right,
explain
right.
that to me from a coach's perspective, or of what you've done, or how long you've been doing it as well.
Well, I think in general, if you're gonna, most people are gonna fall into one of those categories, so one of those three body types, or they might be a combination of two as well. But typically you consider your endomorph like the athletic build.
Hmm.
That's the the how many times do you see that Andrea Shaw might say, before I started bodybuilding, I was an athlete, I did track, I did this,
Right.
these are just naturally athletic people, and they have an athletic shape and build muscle easily, tend to lean out fairly well. And then you've got the mesomorph who tends to build fat easier, but they also can build a lot of muscle easy. And
Hmm.
then you got the extreme opposite other end of the ectomorph, which is the slight frame. It's not necessarily tall, but it's just more of a slender build. And those are the people that are usually have really high metabolisms and stay super lean all the time. So
Hmm.
it's easy for them to get into shape, but it's hard for them to build mass. So
Right.
each one has its advantage, you
Hmm.
know. So, but you work with what you got, because there's no
Right.
change. So,
Exactly. Two of the most overused words, and everybody likes to throw it out there as a be all end all, is genetics and conditioning. Genetics and conditioning. And I'm like, okay. Um, Tell me what that entails. Because everybody uses it as a cover where they got amazing genetics and you can't beat genetics, and then they want to say, oh, condition like versus not conditioning, which maybe is just a nice way to say, hey, you came to the stage, you weren't in shape.
it pretty much is. I mean, that's what conditioning comes down to. It's the level of leanness,
Hmm.
how much detail separation are you showing in the muscle. Um,
Right.
you know, we don't only want to see those muscle bellies full, but we also want to see a lot of detail. Especially you think about a back. The back is probably the most 3D part
Yep.
of the body, and when you have somebody with super conditioning and a lot of detail in their back, you just get these massive backs that pop. It's just all
Right.
different types of like planes, of on the back. So the more conditioning you can bring, the better generally. Once in a while we see judges go with maybe size or shape over
Right.
conditioning.
Mass,
But
as they would like. Yeah. Hmm.
and sometimes you see him go with conditioning, hands down. It's like, okay, the most conditioned may not have had the best symmetry or shape, but she was the most conditioned and she wins. So it's a lot of times it depends on what judges are looking for that day.
Right.
Um, but overall, you want to bring all those pieces together at your best: conditioning, shape, size, right? So if you have all the pieces, ideally you're taking home trophies.
Right. And at the end of the day, you can be in prep 16, 25 weeks, but when you get to the stage, you can't present it. How important is posing?
Yeah, posing is critical. I mean, it's one of the most important pieces. I think it gets overlooked sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, but if you don't display your attributes and hide your flaws, because posing's not about just making sure the parts that look good, but making sure we
Hmm.
don't highlight the parts that don't look so good. So, um, the more you can maximize that, the better. You're just presenting something that looks more impeccable on stage. They're seeing the good points, and you're hiding the weakness as well. And you'd also asked about genetics. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if it's
Yes,
necessarily an
genetic.
overused
Thank you for
term
coming back.
because it's
Hmm.
relevant. I mean,
Hmm.
it absolutely has a enormous factor. You can't not consider and put intensity and work ethic and you know your dedication and consistency. You can't take those pieces out. However, when you have
Right.
all those pieces firing at 100% and then add the genetic component, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a home run, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and there's different things that people are genetically strong in. Some people are genetically strong in their shape, right? The shape that they
Hmm.
bring to the stage. Phil Heath, we called him the gift. Just had one
Yes.
of incredible muscle bellies and shape. Um,
Hmm.
and then maybe your genetic gift is insane conditioning. So it's not
Hmm.
always shape, maybe it's your ability to build a lot of size, so there's different variables of genetics that um, give you certainly an advantage if you have it.
And everybody comes out, they're known for their back or they're known for their legs, and it really comes out to how you present it. And they can
Yeah.
bring in the whole body thing and just. And then lastly, peaking. You've been off stage for 3 years. Do you feel like you had, maybe was it just nerves, show rust? Um, when you get all the way to the end or within a week or peak week, aka peaking, how important it is to get your rest, and now you're really just trying to do the fine tuning and dial everything in.
It's important. I generally, as an athlete and a coach, I don't look at peak week as one of the weeks that I consider prep. If I want to
Oh,
do a 16-week prep with an athlete, it usually looks more like 17 weeks because peak week, and I'm not going to look to ever build any lean mass, no new tissue. I'm not going to
hmm,
burn any more fat. I'm trying to burn fat off in peak week. You miss the mark.
right.
Peak week's not the time to do that. Peak week is actually time to let the body rest. We're letting inflammation
Yes.
come off from training, from cardio stress, from food stress, and we're starting to just nurture that body. So when we bring, you always see athletes looking ragged and like hell peak week, and then wow, on stage, it's
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
makeup that makes them look good.
The, the
It's
zombie face,
they're
the sucked in face. Yeah.
yeah, it's a fact that you're actually filled back in. You actually have fuel, you have glycogen, you have some pop in your muscle, and you look fuller, and
Hmm.
healthier. So um I forgot where I was going with that.
Oh, the peak week and peaking.
Peak week.
How do you
So
build
yeah,
up to the show? Yeah.
it's not only they're saying it's important to utilize it in the right way, and then as I mentioned earlier, like peaking is right up to the last minute you step on stage, manipulating different factors, whether it's salt or water or electrolytes or carbohydrates,
Hmm.
sugars. there's a bunch of little things that we do at the end that can make a difference in how you look on stage. So, you
Right.
know, peak week is always always say it's like, you can have the most perfect prep and you can literally blow it at the 11th hour by blowing the
Right.
peak. You know, either coming in flat, spilling, not dry enough, just different things.
And when you look at women's bodybuilding, you guys um, check in on Thursday, you're on stage Friday. Is it better to have a longer time between prejudging and finals, or do you like the way they did it at the Triple O, for example? Everything's all in one day. Because
Oh,
ideally, I think the men's body was the open, do have advantage from 24 hours between the two shows, but at the same time they can be in a bad way because they can be hurting too. So it really becomes a lot that's incumbent on the coach. Which way would you like to have the format? What works best for you?
um, I think I've only ever done shows that was an AM or at latest noon prejudge and then a
Right,
PM final.
right,
I think I might have done nationals one year when it was 2 days, which I did not like having to
mm,
maintain that condition in over 2 day period. Um, and really at the pro level, I think it's more so in the men's classes, but
right.
as
That
far
has
as
that.
finals, it does it and they bring us out sometimes for a final comparison, but they don't always. Sometimes they've made their decision from prejudging. We go through routines, and boom, they come out and do awards. And if
Hmm.
there's any comparison round, you know it's quick.
Right,
So it, if you're not going to be reevaluated at the night show, then you just want to maintain where you're at. I mean, because if you bring it
mm,
any better, is it going to make a difference? If
right,
unless they're on the fence and they don't know who's going first or second or something like that, then if you have the opportunity to usually to bring it maybe fuller or
hmm,
drier or something for the night show, or you look harder, you know,
hmm,
so it can be different. Um, as opposed to if you do the back-to-back prejudge final,
yeah,
there's no opportunity to make any changes or improvements.
right, yeah. That's the takeaway from that. But then
Yep.
if you more time, it just maybe more time to mess something up too. So, and I really think that goes back how experienced is your coach, because some coaches can do some things and it's a totally different person in finals. You're like, wow. And the other coaches can do some things and they may have been they end up losing it or losing spots, whereas they just left it alone. But that's what separates great coaches, I believe, because
Yeah.
those are the ones that can, oh, this problem happened, boom, let me go fix this. And knowing your athletes over time. This is the second year that Teresa Avancic is working with Andrew Vu. So, and you've seen the difference when you look at the
Mhm.
Triple O dynasty. And now that we got 19 weeks before the Olympia, it's going to be interesting to see how she looks, as well as everybody, Ashley included in it. But it really comes down to coach. I like to see a coach of the year, not so much as those that got X amount of athletes at the Olympia or wins, but like who really was the best coach and how did they do with their athlete? Because and at both levels too, NPC level and the IFBB Pro level, because somebody's the best and somebody, you always have the best athlete, and we put in that, but I want to see the best coaches as well.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to talk to you about when it's close, and everybody knows it's close, and they say it's 1 point. This point is between this person and that person. How much prepared from a coach's perspective do you tell your athlete? Because they're going to pose you, they're going to turn you this and turn you that way. How long must an athlete be prepared to pose as a pose down to figure out who's going to win it? Because now you're coming down to really muscular endurance, and mindset. Because now everything's messing with you. What do you tell your athletes when it comes to that? How long must you be prepared
We've been
for the
preparing
poses to?
all along. So, you know,
Mhm.
when it comes to practicing posing, it's not only perfecting the poses for how they look, but it's also perfecting them to hold them for a length of time. You
Yes.
know, we know that you might hold a pose on stage for maybe 5 to 10 seconds.
Hmm.
They're relatively quick most of the time. So if you're practicing every day and holding those poses for 20 seconds every time consistently, and you're doing repetitions, just like you would do sets and reps in the gym, you do sets and reps of holding your poses for a length of time in front of the mirror, and until you get to the point where you hold those poses and you're granite, because nobody wants to see this happening,
the shake,
especially in a rear back double or
sign.
And it's hard because yes, you're full for stage, but you've been depleted for weeks. At this point, it's hard, and posing and holding poses is difficult. It's work. So, as the more you practice, the better prepared you're going to be for that. And I mean, there's certain posers out there, like someone like Nick Walker is just like a statue when he hits his poses. I mean, he is just boom into his poses and rock solid. And there's no, looks like he could stand there for an hour,
Right.
So there's a lot to be said for practicing and getting those poses down like that.
And again, you got to be able to present it. I don't care how good you look. If you can't present it on stage, it's at a loss. I'm going to get you out of here on this one.
All right.
Getting ready for the Toronto Super Show. Give me your timeline. How are you feeling? You hadn't been on stage for 3 years. Going into your second show of the year, you got to feel a little bit more comfortable. But what are you thinking? What are your expectations? Because everybody wants to be on that Olympia stage.
Well, this is my shot, is my opinion. Going into New York, I knew, everyone knew, first wasn't an option there. Wasn't going to happen. So, of course, it always depends who shows up. So if Lavinia popped into Toronto, I'd say, well, guess what? That's probably not my show. I'm not going to win it.
Right.
There's certain athletes, where you rank.
Right.
I know who I can and can't beat. And if I'm fortunate enough to get an Olympia qualification, I'm not going into the Olympia expecting a top 5. I will just be elated to come in absolutely last. It's been my dream since the day I've started bodybuilding, so I think I've got a good chance, at Toronto. Definitely going to bring my absolute best. It's going to be better than what you guys just saw. So I'm coming to fight. So I want it. I'm going to do everything I can to get there.
You never know. And hey, all the best. Looking forward to seeing you on stage for the second time this year. Will this be your last show, or have you planned out that far that maybe you would do another one?
We never know. I don't know. Tampa, I hold dear to my heart. It's my home show. I've done it many times. So it's, I don't know. There's that's always in the back of my mind. So
got you. Hey, all the best at the Toronto Pro. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks for having me.
As always, definitely. So you want to come back and talk to me after the Toronto?
Sure, why not?
I appreciate you. Take it easy.
All right, thanks, Glenn. All right, take care.
Bye now. So there you have it. Gina Cavaliero on the way to the Toronto Super Show. Coming up here in a couple of weeks. You want to definitely tune in and check that out as the stakes get even higher with each show and each qualification. So we're going to get all the way to the end. Everybody's looking forward to the Rising Phoenix, as they should. But we still got a lot more shows and people to qualify. And the final field is going to be impressive because so much is at stake. At this point, you can say, yes, taking the points away was good because it created this competition factor. And it's exciting to watch. So thanks for tuning in to everyone. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe to the Amazon's Fit Mag website. Support is so important. And when you do more, I can do more. Other than that, we will see you next week. list coming out. I will be on live tomorrow around 4 o'clock to promote Aesthetics Massage, who will be joining me for their event that's coming up this next Friday. So I will likely be in Charlotte for that. But I got a whole list of competitors that's coming up next week, and you don't want to miss it. And, you know, this is what's great, you know, that you want to be on the show, that you want to be in the magazine. And I'm enjoying getting the content, but enjoying also, more importantly, sharing your stories. And of course, sharing all your stories with your fans. And it's been great. So let's keep this going. I will see you tomorrow roughly around 4 o'clock. I'll come on live and I'll answer some questions about the magazines as well. But Aesthetics Massage will be joining me. So we will see you guys then.